Hello friends, my name is Som. Now we will see class 10 biology chapter number 1 life processes. Some something which is living not dead is said to be alive. In most simple term, alive means having life. Alive is called Jeevit or Zinda in Hindi. We are alive and you are also alive. Those things, alive or living things. Now, an important question arises: what criteria do we use to decide whether something is alive? This is decides below. The most important criteria to decide whether something is alive or not is the movement. Movement is one of the most important sign of life in an organism. All the living things which are alive move by. The most important criterion for to decide whether something is alive or not is the movement. Movement is one of the most important sign in an organism. All the living things which are alive move by themselves without any external help. In some cases the movement In some cases, the movement of living things are quite fast, which which can be easily observed by us, but in other cases the movement are very slow and hence observed with difficulty. Observed with difficulty. For example, the movement in most of the animals are fast and can be observed easily, but the movement in plants are usually slow and observed with difficulty. Animals and plants move in different ways. This will become clear from the following discussion. Animal can move from open place to another, or they can move their body part. For example, a frog. For example, a frog moves when it jumps into a pond. A bird moves when it flies in the sky. An athlete moves when he runs, and a fish moves when it swims in water. See figure 1. We move our hand when we clap, and our chest moves up and down when we breathe, and a dog can wag its tail. All these movements show that a frog, bird, fish, dog, and human beings are alive or living things. The plants are fixed in the soil at a place, so they cannot move like animals from place to place. The plant can only move part of their body, such as leaves, flowers, shoots and roots. The plant part move towards a stimulus. Such moves simultaneously, such as sunlight, gravity, or water, etc. For example, the shoot, the leaves, and flowers of a sunflower plant move by bending towards the sun so as to face the sunlight. See figure 2. The leaves of a mimosa pudica plant, sensitive plant, move by folding up when touched with a finger. Plant also show movement by growing their roots and shoots bigger. Non-living things which are not alive cannot move by themselves. Non-living things which are not alive cannot move by themselves. For example, a stone is a non-living thing which cannot move by itself from one place to another or shown any other type of movement. We will have to move it by applying force from outside. All the living things, plants and animals, are made up of tiny living units called cells. The cells themselves are made up of still smaller particles called molecules. The movement over very small scale as those in the molecules of living things are invisible to the naked eyes. The invisible molecule movement is, however, necessary for the existence of life. In fact, viruses do not show any molecular movement in them until they infect some cells, and this has created controversy about whether they are whether they are truly alive or not. In addition to movement, the living things also show some other characteristics. These are discussed below. All the living things which are alive have some common characteristics or features which make them different from non-living things. The characteristics of living things are as follow. Living things can move by themselves. Living things need food, air, and water. Living things can grow. Living things can respond to changes around them. They are sensitive. Living things respire, release energy from food. Living things excrete, get rid of waste material from their food. Living things can reproduce. They have young ones. Are the life process. All the organism performs the basic function to keep themselves alive. The basic function performed by living organisms to maintain their life on this earth are called life processes. The basic life processes common to all the living organisms are nutrition and respiration, transport and excretion, control, coordination, respond to simultaneously growth, movement, and reproduction. The process of nutrition involves the taking of food inside the body and converting it into smaller molecules which can be absorbed by the body. Respiration is the process by which releases energy from the food absorbed by the body. Transport is the process in which a substance absorbed or made in one part of the body is moved to other part of body. Excretion is process in which the materials the waste material product in the cell of the body are removed from the body. Control and coordination for response to stimuli in a process which help the living organism to survive in the changing environment around them. The process of growth involves the change of a small organism to a big organism or an adult organism. In movement of organism either move for one place to another or moves its body part while remains at the same place. This process of reproduction involves the making of more organisms from the existing ones. This so that organisms could live on this earth forever. Energy is needed for the life processes. All the living organisms need energy to perform various life processes. They get the energy from food. Food is kind of fuel which provides energy to all the living organisms. The living organisms use the chemical energy for carrying out various life processes. They get the chemical energy from food through and other activities. And other activities which they perform. For example, energy is required by an organism even during which help required energy. Our heat beats non-stop even when we are asleep. It to pump blood through the blood, and these beats of heart required energy. Thus the working of heart required a continuous supply of energy, and the energy required by An organism comes from food that organism eat. Thus, food is basic requirement of all the living organisms for obtaining energy. In this chapter, we will first study the process of intake and utilization of the food by an organism called nutrition, and the liberation of energy from the food called respiration. After that, we will study the process of moving the digestion food and other materials to the various part of the body called transport, and the removal of waste material from the body called excretion. Let us start with nutrition. Nutrition. Food is an organic substance. The simplest food is glucose. It is also called simple sugar. A more complex food is starch. Starch is made from glucose, the general name of substance like glucose, sugar, and starch is carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are the most common food for getting energy. Fats and proteins are also foods, and a wider definition of food, however, also includes materials, salts, vitamins, and water, which are essential for the normal growth and development of an organism. The process of taking in food, consuming food, and utilizing it is called nutrition. It is a process in which food is obtained in order to utilize it to provide energy for performing various metabolic activities of the organism. Actually, the term nutrition comes from the word nutrient. Nutrient is an organic for A nutrient is an organic or inorganic substance required for the maintenance of life and survival of living organism most the most simple term. A nutrient can be said to be a particular type of food. A nutrient can be defined as a substance which an organism obtained from its surroundings and use it as a source of energy or for the biosynthesis of its body. Constituents like tissues and organs, for example, carbohydrates and fats are the nutrients are the nutrients which are used by an organism mainly as source of energy. whereas proteins and mineral salt are nutrients used by an organism for the biosynthesis of his body constituents like skin, body, blood, etc. The food taken in by an organism consists a large number of nutrients like carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, vitamins, and water, etc. We can now say that nutrition is process that intake of nutrition like carbohydrate, fat, protein, mineral, vitamin, and water by an organism, as well as the utilization of these nutrients by the organism. We will now describe that various ways of procuring food or obtaining food by the different organism. In other words, we will now describe the different modes of nutrition of the various organism. Mode of nutrition means method of processing food or obtaining food by an organism. All the organisms do not obtain their food in the same way. Different organisms have different method of procuring food or obtaining food. In other words, organisms differ in their modes of nutrition depending on the modes or methods of obtaining food, and the organism can be classified into two groups, autotrophic and heterotrophic. Thus, there are mainly two modes of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic. We will now discuss the autotrophic mode of nutrition and the heterotrophic mode of nutrition in detail one by one. Autotrophic mode of nutrition, the word auto means self and trophy means nutrition. Thus, autotrophic means self nutrition. In autotrophic nutrition, the organism make or synthesize its own food from the inorganic raw materials inorganic materials like carbon dioxide and water present in surrounding. By using the sunlight energy sunlight energy, we can now say that autotrophic nutrition is the mode of nutrition which an organism make or synthesize its own food from the simpler inorganic material like carbon dioxide and water present in the surrounding with the help of sunlight energy. Please note that food is an organic material like glucose, etc. This means that in autotrophic nutrition, organic material food is made or synthesized from inorganic material. Now we will move to our next page. Like carbon dioxide and water, by utilizing sunlight energy, the green plants have an autotrophic mode of nutrition. The autotrophic bacteria also obtain their food by the autotrophic mode of nutrition. Through most bacteria are not autotrophic, or the organisms having autotrophic mode in nutrition are called autotrophic organisms or just autotrophs. Those organisms which can make their own food from carbon dioxide and water are called autotrophs. Carbon dioxide and waters are inorganic substance, so we can also say that these organisms which can make their own food from inorganic substance present in the environment are called autotrophs. All the green plants are autotrophs because they can make their own food from inorganic substance like carbon dioxide and water present in the environment. No green non-green plants are however plants non-green plants are however not autotrophs. Certain bacteria and water present in the environment called autotrophic bacteria are also autotrophs. The autotrophic organisms or autotrophs contains the green pigment called chlorophyll, which is capable for trapping sunlight energy. This trapped sunlight energy is utilized by the autotrophs to make process of photosynthesis. Thus autotrophs make their own food by photosynthesis. So autotrophs are the producers of food. The food produced by autotrophs, green plants, is also used by human beings and many other plants. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. The word the word heteros means other and tropes refers to nutrition. Thus heterotrophic means nutrition obtained from others. The heterotrophic nutrition the heterotrophic nutrients, the organism cannot make or synthesize his own food from the inorganic raw material like carbon dioxide and water, and use of food made by autotrophic organisms directly or indirectly. We can now say that heterotrophic nutrition is that mode of nutrition in which an organism cannot make or synthesize its own food from simple inorganic material like carbon dioxide and water, and depends on other organisms for their food. A heterotrophic nutrition organism is a consumer which derives its nutrition from other organism. That is, heterotrophic organism has to eat eat other organisms for its nutrition. All the animals have to have a heterotrophic modes of nutrition. Most bacteria and fungi also have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. The organisms having heterotrophic modes of nutrition are called heterotrophic organisms or just heterotrophs. Those organisms which cannot make their own food from inorganic substance like carbon dioxide and water and depends on other organisms for their food are called heterotrophs. All the animals are heterotrophs because they cannot make their food from inorganic substance like carbon dioxide and water and obtain their food from other plants or animals. Thus, man, dog, cat, deer, tiger, uh, tag, cat, deer, tiger, bear, lion, cow, etc. are all heterotrophs. The non-green plants like yeast are also heterotrophs. Heterotrophs depends on plants or other animals for their food. Now we will move to our next page. Some animals like Plasmodium or roundworms. Thus, the microorganisms Plasmodium, which cause malarian disease, is a parasite. Roundworms, which cause disease in man and domestic animals like dogs. is a parasite roundworm which cause disease in men's and domestic animals like dogs and cattle is also parasite. Roundworms live inside the body of man and his domestic animals. Several fungi and bacteria and plants like cactus, amer, amarbel, Cascuta amarbel are also parasites. Some other examples of parasites are ticks, leeches, and tapeworms. Holozoic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition means feeding on solid food, which may be a plant product or an animal product. Most of animals, animals including human beings, take a solid food into their body by the process of ingation. This ingation food is then digested, broke down into simpler substances, which are then absorbed into the cells of the body, and the undigested and unabsorbed waste materials are existed throughout of the body. We can now say that the holozoic nutrition is that nutrition in which an organism takes the complex organic food materials into its body by the process of ingation. The ingested food is digested and then absorbed into the body cells of the organism. The undigested food and the undigested and unabsorbed part of the food is thrown out of the body of the organism by the process of the ignition. The human beings and the most of the animals have a holozoic mode of nutrition. In other words, man, cat, dogs, cattle, deer, lion, tigers, bear, giraffe, frog, fish, and amoeba, etc., have the holozoic mode of nutrition. Thank you, friends. Stay steady with me. Bye bye.